that. All right. Hello, everyone. So first up in the agenda, I wanted to confirm some goals that we got for 18.1. I'm trying to get all of the planning issues nailed down this week. I got a few things that Sam and Chris and I spoke about earlier this week, and I just want to make sure this tracks for everybody. So we're starting on this big migration that Mark, I know you've got an update for later on. We can get into that then. Jeremy, you wanted to nail down the details of the component health process. Dan, if he's on, was wanting to start looking at some designs for a unified component page to support the big migration. Dan and Scott continuing on this syntax highlighting, switching mode deal. And then Jeremy was going to maybe start on some IA stuff for the new consolidated site. Does that sound right? Are there other big things that we should make sure to include in the list? Cool. I'll take that as a resounding agreement. There's still plenty of stuff in our backlog, so if you don't see anything that's listed for you, there will be things. Don't worry.
I think
All right.
the only thing I just kind of want to call out is getting started on the big migration. We might not be able to start that at the start of the milestone because of some of the stuff that Mark's doing.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that should still be the big goal, and anything else we pull in is just extra work that we get to do because we've got nothing else to do, right? Like, does that make sense?
Yep. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Um, awesome. Well, let's take a look at some of the active projects. How's all of the dark mode for GA stuff going on? I've seen one or two little bugs that have been passed around, but are there any other discussions that are happening? Any other issues that are need attention? Um, well, Dan, I'll pick on you specifically. How's the conversation about the syntax highlighting in dark mode going? I've seen some back and forth with Scott. Do we feel like we're nailed down there and ready to build it, or is there still steps needed?
I think there's a small amount needed. The main bits still to resolve are some of the other parts of the settings page. But the bulk of the work is done. So other parts of the settings page include the diff colors. So it's just checking how do we present the diff color choice UI to users now that the colors they pick need to work across two themes.
Yeah, that
But
makes
I'm
sense.
not I'm not expecting that to be take too long. I expect
Okay,
that to be able to be done within this milestone.
perfect. Well, is the syntax highlighting ready to go off to dev, or do we have to figure both of these designs out before they can pick either of them up?
Uh, it depends. I d- I think what the reason I'm hesitating to say a yes or no is because I can't picture the quality of the experience. Like, will it be
Hmm.
too painful an experience to have these two selections but only one diff
Hmm.
colors?
I
Like,
see.
are we
Okay.
shipping Simility incomplete if we move it to dev? Um, but there's probably a way of developing that part of it, hiding it behind feature flags, all of that to it's not releasable, but it might be devable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It does make sense. Yeah, so it sounds like we're still on track for all of it. This is again the last big thing that our team is responsible for GAing, which we want to do probably in the next 2 or 3 milestones so that we stay within the second quarter. So I just want to make sure that we're moving it forward as much as possible. Cool. Any other dark mode things to call out?
I
Excellent.
watched. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Go
fine.
ahead,
I was
please.
going to
After
say
you.
I watched some engineers and some designers try and use color and develop with it. It was pretty interesting. If you haven't seen my summary of the findings or watched any of the recordings, I'll link those up, and I definitely recommend you do.
Yeah, I saw the overview of the findings. Seems like some of that is going to be fixed with our like new unified docs. Are there any other immediate actions that you think we should take to support the teams?
I think there's um yeah, I think we can improve the path from idea in someone's head color to implementation, probably through Tailwind. Um,
Hmm.
but I've still got some time this milestone to take a closer look at that to turn it into, hey, here are actual things that we could do today.
Okay, that'd be super helpful. If I understand, Flory's got some of that coming. Um, Sam, were you popping off to say just that?
No, although you're totally right. I think, well, I know what I was going to say actually. I don't think what I was going to say. The key thing here is communication, right? Like we need to, there's lots of things people don't know what to do because we've not showed them how to do it or where to do it or like things like where people were looking for colors. They were like, okay, what's the hex code of this? I'll now search the code base for where that hex code is so we can see what that variable is and then use that variable back again over here. Like it's inefficient when you could just go to the thing to say, okay, this is error border, whatever it is, right? Like I've struggled to come up with a random design token there, but and it's just kind of letting people know what design tokens are and reaffirming that, hey, this is a different way of thinking about things, but this is kind of how we're doing it. Um, yeah, people doing weird things because it's the only way they've known how to do it in the past.
All right. Um, well, looking over to the big unifying the design repos project, Mark, you want to share your results?
Sure. Well, results maybe is not the best word at the moment, but the plan, as I see it. So, Sam and I were talking about a metaphor earlier today, and I think it's quite a good one. The plan is we're going to move house, and we're going to not move house in the normal way you take all the bits and pieces from one house and put them in another. We're going to take the house as a whole, rip it from its foundations, and put it into a new house. Um, and then will come the process of like making that less stupid and ugly, where you tear down the external walls and make the plumbing not stupid and stuff like that. So how's this going to work? There's a few sort of phases. Uh, the first two that are sort of can run concurrently is the information architecture work that we've talked about. Um, that's really important to get input from engineers and designers and everyone who would be consuming the design system because I, for instance, have pretty strong opinions about what I would like our documentation to have, for instance, as a user of, say, GitLab UI, the NPM package. How do I use GL button? That's an important question to be able to answer. So yeah, as soon as there's any discussions about that, I'd love to be included. The other thing that can go on in parallel with that is what I'm working on at the moment, which is preparation of this metaphorical house move. So I'm figuring out, I'm hashing it out. I'm actually going through the process of moving one repository into the other and seeing what breaks and figuring out the steps needed to unbreak things so that we can have everything working as it was before, just everything is moved. So that means, in theory, one day you will be submitting a merge request to the old GitLab UI repository, and then the next day you'd be submitting it to design.gitlab.com, and the same sort of deployments and publishing of npm packages would continue, just with completely different sort of architecture behind the scenes. There are some other phases listed here. So that's this phase. Once I've figured out all the unknown unknowns, we can announce a day where we will do this house move. And I want to do it that way because GitLab UI is not a sort of, or no, let me say it this way, GitLab UI is a moving target. And so we want to disrupt workflows as little as possible. So I want to figure out all the steps necessary to do the move, announce a moving day where we soft lock both repositories, we do the move, make sure everything works, and then unlock the designgitlab.com. I'm thinking a Friday early on in a milestone, hopefully this milestone. And in theory, all of that will go well, and we would have merged GitLab UI. Then we can move on to stuff like moving documentation and other bits and pieces, which is like moving issues, helping to migrate merge requests from the old repository, from the old project to the new project, and things like that. And then once the information architecture work is done, we can start rewriting documentation and possibly other things like merging other repositories like GitLab SVGs, but that's really not that important. We may never do that, but it's a logical continuation of this work anyway. Yeah, so I expect this preparation phase to take minimum of a week because, if anyone's worked on pipelines, before you push a change, wait for the pipeline to run, and if it breaks, you've got to then diagnose it. So it's a very slow cycle time, unfortunately. So that's what I'll be focusing on for now. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions? I also opened a merge request recently along these lines. So the design.gitlab.com project currently requires semantic commits for the commit message structure. The merge request I've got open removes that and just tries to enforce our main GitLab commit message guidelines. So there should be less confusion there and more consistency. So yes, any thoughts, any questions?
One question I have is, you noted that you want to do the announcement of the move day when you're certain that it's going to happen on that day, right? But do we need to do some earlier announcements to say like, hey, this is coming. Like we're moving away from GitLab UI, or it's going to live here for XYZ reasons. And basically give people a chance to like an airing of grievances. We'll set up the Festivus Bowl for them.
Short answer, yes, we should do that.
Okay.
I will send something out this week to that effect.
That'd be great. Thank you.
To the various channels. But it will be a sort of more information is coming sort of thing because we can't yet set a date because I don't know when it will be ready.
Yeah.
But yes.
The other thing on this
for
as
the
well
airing of grievances, let's coordinate with Dan on that, since I think that'll be good input for how we update the component pages to handle all this new content. And it'll be a good place for us to sort of make sure we align on the actual goals of what this new IA, what this new design would be like.
Did you? Sorry, I missed that, Chris. Coordinate with.
coordinate with Dan on sort of the airing of grievances to get input from everyone because like we're going to be redesigning these component pages to handle all this new storybook content as well as the new features that we want to add in there. This would be a good place to get input from engineers and designers on what we've been missing.
Would a feedback issue on design.gitlab.com make sense for this? Maybe a confidential issue?
I would leave it to you and Dan to figure out the best way to get this input from people, whether it's a feedback issue or I don't know, AMAs or whatever.
Is Dan here? Can't
Yeah, Dan's
see.
here.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, feedback issues sound fun. And I'm sure there'll be stuff on Slack that we can transfer to feedback issues as we hear it as well.
There was the other bit that Mark and I talked about in our one-on-one earlier, where any merge requests that are currently open against GitLab UI are going to get tricky because we're essentially trying to merge it into something that's going away. So in that announcement, we want to tell people if you have an open merge request, like consider closing it or finishing it up. And if you have one you're planning, consider maybe planning it to open in a couple of weeks so that we're not like doubling efforts, right? There's a surprising amount of merge requests that are going into GitLab UI. I think we worked out there was like 2 a day roughly on average.
Oh,
Yeah, right. Like, that was our reaction as well. It's they're relatively small, but
yeah, it does
the more
show
we
that this
have,
will
the
impact people's workflow, so we need to be careful with it.
yeah. But yeah, like we say, that soft lock date is coming. If, in preparation for that, try to close out any merge requests that you've got open because it's got to be a nightmare to merge them after that.
That makes
It might
sense.
be a nightmare. I'm not sure about that yet. I think it
Yeah,
might
but if
be
we say it
okay,
will
but
be and then it isn't, people are happy. If we say it might be and then it is, people said, you only said might. You
something
said there
tells
was an
me
80% chance that it wouldn't be fine. So there's a 20% chance, and I'm annoyed that that's happening. Right?
something tells me you learned that the hard way, Sam.
Or several times over, Mark.
One
Never
other,
promise and over deliver.
yeah, kidding. One other random kind of technical question. Are we going to be able to preserve the commit history of GitLab UI as we pull all of that into the design repo?
Absolutely. We'll basically do something
Fantastic.
very similar to what we did for the Bootstrap view vendoring. We
Mhm.
just pull in the main branch and it will just be a separate commit history that gets merged into it.
That's
So you
awesome.
should be able to do git blame and the web UI should track that automatically as well.
Awesome. Very well done. Very well done. All right.
I dropped a question there about integration branches. Like, will those continue to work the same? And
Uh, ooh, let me just. So integration branches in the sense of you you start a job that creates a branch on GitLab upstream and so on. Yeah, in theory, all existing CI and sort of workflow stuff should exist in the new state, but with maybe minor changes. So short answer, yes, and if it doesn't, that's a bug, and I messed up. I think you're muted. Can anyone else hear Jeremy?
Nope.
any luck now?
Yep. You're back.
I per Dan's recommendation, I'm trying AirPods, and like every now and then they don't they don't like to unmute. So we'll use the Mac here for a second. Yeah, like I've got one that's open, and so like if I need to push upstream changes to it or downstream changes, however that works later, it's one that's just taking longer. Like if that wasn't closed out, would it still be connected, or would I have to start fresh?
Um, I mean, they're not connected in any real way except, you maintain a link to the upstream uh, integration merge quest and the original merge quest. Um, but out of interest, what is this one that you've got that's taking quite some time because of product impact?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure, switching things around. There's one for drawers, unboxing the drawers, but I had to get approval from, I don't know, 20 some people to evaluate their different drawers in the product. Um, and so trying to get all those approvals is taking a good chunk of time.
So your concern is primarily in maintaining that approval history if the target repos to
Well,
switch.
or yeah, or if like, and this is probably just me not fully understanding how integration branches work, but let's say it's we need to push a change to the GitLab UI MR and have that connected back to the same integration branch. Like, does that stay connected or are those even connected?
Yeah, this sounds like exactly one of the merge quests that might be quite tricky. Basically, it would be much easier for everyone involved, given how long this review process has gone on, that this gets merged before the moving day, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are the approvals happening in the integration MR?
Yes.
Or yeah, that's better. That's actually better. So I wouldn't worry too much because if the moving day happens before this gets merged, before the GitLab UI merge quest gets merged, those approvals on the integration MR will still be valid. And the new MR to GitLab UI or design.gitlab.com can just sort of continue on from where it was. So I don't think that's a big problem.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and this one is an interesting one. I think Dan and I were talking about the process, not to rabbit trail too much, but it was like typically we would just be like, yeah, it looks good. We're going to merge a change, but uh, because of the number of users impacted, we thought, well, let's just make sure for certain. And so we don't really have a good design system process to handle component updates like this. So it'll just be interesting to address that moving forward. But anyway, that's I appreciate your answer there.
This is interesting. I'll have to check this out in more detail. All right. I think the last thing in our list, I've lost the Google Sheet. Component maturity stuff. Ian, you had a note about some dropdowns?
Yeah, I'm just marching through the component maturity things. I'm working on drop downs, working on a lot of accessibility issues related to those and combo boxes and all that good stuff. Hopefully after this gets merged, I'll have a we'll spin off some of the neat accessibility stuff into some what are they called in Vue? Um, Mixins? Yes, mixins. So that we can reuse that across a number of other components.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Paul on the Paper Guts team asked us to try to help out with some of the accessibility fixes for
Mhm.
the design system in 18.1. So I think most of them are around the dropdown. So I think you basically fix everything with this MR.
Yeah, I think the one MR I have will solve like 25 of those.
Yeah.
It's
And
a
there's
lot of
another
drop
one
down
around
stuff.
tooltips, which I know that's been a long running concern. So we'll see if we can do anything with that next milestone too.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. All right. Well, that was the agenda. Anything else y'all wanted to hit on today? Cool, cool. Well, I hope you have a great afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. I'll catch you later.